Hi, everyone. Welcome to Festival Fun Facts. It's been a while since we've had a live stream, I think since December. It's nice to virtually be on screen again and see you guys through your words. I'm welcoming you to Festival Fun Facts. Now I'm here, but I don't know as much as the person who's co hosting, so I'm going to pass it over to him.
Thanks so much, Jocelyn. It's last year we did the Festival Fun Facts after the Winter Festival for the Arts Ed New Jersey's New Jersey State Solo and Ensemble Festival. It's a long title. I was flying solo with your guidance in the background. I figured, let's make it more interesting so folks can get another perspective, and to bring you in front of the camera into the studio with us and share the fun of the festival fun facts. So thanks for having me. Thanks for agreeing to be here with me and to try to spread the word about what it is we're doing, what we have done so far in a year and a half, and what the plans are for the rest of the year for the New Jersey State Solo and Ensemble Festival.
Definitely. It's awesome to be here. So, we have a couple questions to go through. We're going to talk about things which are happening all month because it is Arts in Our Schools month, which is super, super exciting. So, if you're part of our social media of any kind, we have multiple social medias. If you're on any of those, you'll see all of the fun stuff that we're doing all month. We posted a calendar and we'll just constantly be posting different things for what's happening, and we'll also be at different events if you're going to be at some of them. And so let's just get right into it.
Sure.
So I think something to start is before we talk about what the solo and ensemble festival does, let's talk about what it is. For those who don't know and who tune into everything which we show, because I know there's people out there who do that.
Right, right. And thanks for asking that, because it does, sometimes the further down the road you get, the more you forget where you're left and what the destination is. So, yeah, I mean, New Jersey has needed for some time to rejuvenate the opportunity for kids to be recognized for solo work. We have a great state association, the New Jersey Music Education Association, that does a lot for the students of New Jersey and for the music educators in New Jersey. And one of the things is the region ensembles and all state ensembles. And students do get an opportunity to audition on solo repertoire for those region and all state auditions. However, the audition is solo based, but then they're placed in ensembles. So it's not a solo for solo's sake, so to speak. Last in the spring and into the summer of 2020, at the outset, I can't believe it's been 2 years already. At the outset of this crazy pandemic that we were all hopefully on the exit out of, working with Bob Morrison on the September Ready Task Force. And seeing things being canceled and postponed, and the uncertainty for our students and the direction we were going to, this remote/hybrid world of education, much less arts education, we thought, what can we do in this darkness to bring to some light? And let's see if we can do this solo and ensemble festival. And so, with the help of a lot of assistance, we came up with an opportunity for students to study and present solo literature and ensemble literature, but really focusing on the solo area, to receive ratings and commentary from professional educators and musicians throughout the country and the world. There are goals and missions. We want to promote excellence in music education. We want to promote skills in music performance. We want to encourage students to continue, because that was another one of our fears, was that students would drop. So we wanted an opportunity for students to continue. We wanted the opportunity for directors and students to set goals for themselves. And lastly, we also wanted to have students form connections and relationships between their music making and the global society in which we all live. So making those connections was another important part. We had a great run last year, over 2,000 registrations. All 21 counties of the state of New Jersey were represented. I don't know, I couldn't tell you, I don't have the numbers in front of me with how many schools and private instructors, and then we decided let's continue it this year. Let's stay in the remote setting for various reasons, which we'll talk about, I think, a little bit later in this program. And we just had our winter festival that wrapped up last month, and again, very successful. 16 out of 21 counties. We missed out on 5. I couldn't get some of my brothers and sisters in South and the southern and far western parts of the state didn't get a chance. And we started to go back to quote unquote normal. There's people going on band trips and having concerts. So this remote festival was not at the fore because it was one of the only options last year. So we did have an opportunity, and we celebrated the fact that kids are able to go back to music making in a more traditional form. But we want to also remain as part of the selections and opportunities for the kids in the state and become part of the fabric of what music education is here in the state of New Jersey.
Absolutely. I think this is so cool. I think we've talked a lot about it, and we're going to talk about it more. The virtuality of the innate virtuality of this competition. But I think it's really cool to focus on solo performances, because during COVID, people were really afraid of it. We're really scared to do solo performances, and then people also were stuck in doing those, so it was hard to do bigger performances. And it's wonderful that you took that and you reinvented it to be not a negative but a great positive, to really show that it's your skills that you're performing, and it's really beautiful to see that.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate that. And listen, every musician knows, or most for the most part, most musicians are community beasts, right? We play in bands and choirs and orchestras, right? Of some sort or another. So we're used to making music with other people. But there is something to be said about pushing your own envelope and studying repertoire that may perhaps exceeds your grasp to take you to that next level. And this was an opportunity to do that. And because of the fact that we're using a remote protocol for our adjudication protocol, and students can do it from rural areas and urban areas, in school or at home or in a private studio, we reached a larger amount of students in a lot of cases, rather than have a central site that kids had to be bused to or drive to, and that might have been an obstacle that we overcame. We're still glad that we're back to a quasi-normal, and hopefully more towards, we just had our 4th grade and 5th grade performances. We have another one Saturday in my school, in the school district of Chatham's, which we're very happy about. But we're also promoting for our middle school and high school kids this Solo and Ensemble Festival, because, and the other part of this, which we'll get into in a little bit as well, is the level of adjudication. I mean, we just have the highest level of folks listening to our kids and providing invaluable commentary. So we're also very happy about that.
Absolutely. And so these things that we're touching on in this session, we're also going to talk deeper in each session that we're doing. So we're doing 4 this month, 1 each week. So this is the intro and registration. So we're going to talk in depth about registration this time. And if you want the link for registration, it's down below in the description, as well as the link to the other info session that is happening on the 7th, but we'll talk about that later. So the other 3 streams that we're doing are partnership, which I'm going to ask you about in just a moment,
Sure.
Judging, and the submission process as well. And so that's going to be like what type of setup you should have, what are some things that you recommend, and what are some things that are required.
Right.
So moving back to partnership, let's talk about the partners, because this is a solo ensemble festival, but you are working with a lot of people.
Right.
And so let's talk about them.
Sure. Thank you. I mean, so Arts Ed New Jersey is the sponsor, right? And Arts Ed is the arts advocacy machine, CEO'd by Bob Morrison for now, as he's moving on to another pastor, a national pastor. But hopefully keeping his feet firmly in New Jersey while he does that, because we need him. But our engine that's driving it past Arts Ed New Jersey is Music for All, and they're based in the Midwest, and they are a national level organization that is an advocacy organization. Bands of America runs through it. They do tremendous amount of professional development for students and teachers, and they believe in the improvement of people through music for all. Literally, in their mission statement is their name, and we would be nowhere without them, because they really held me by the hand and took me through the process of how to get this plane up in the air. Through Music for All, also, like I mentioned a few moments ago, our adjudication platform, which is Competition Suite, again based in Indianapolis. My partner in crime, Mark Sternberg, who's my colleague who works for Music for All and the Competition Suite associations, with registrations and the submission process. So kids, submit their videos and their PDFs to Competition Suite, and that's where the judges plug into to do the ratings as well. So they were on board with us, worked hand in glove with me on how to get that process working. And then another huge partner in this, which I don't know where we would be without them, is the state of Wisconsin and their Music Education Association, because to have a solo and ensemble festival, you need a repertoire for students to glean information from. And in the state of New Jersey, we didn't have that as a resource. So the Wisconsin State Music Education Association, I hope I'm saying that right, was kind enough to basically give us permission to use theirs. And it contains over 11,000 titles, in addition to the publisher information that goes along with the pieces. So for instance, if I'm a flautist and I'm going to play the Mozart Flute Concerto, I have to look on our repertoire list. It's listed there, who's the publisher, and it's approved for the festivals. So there's a little bit of detail that goes into it that I would be scrambling if we had to start from scratch. We just couldn't do it. And they've been very kind about loaning us their festival repertoire list, in addition to, having conversations with us saying, here's our festival guidelines and regulations. Do what you want with it to make it New Jersey, and especially during the COVID, because even they were making adjustments, because there were some stipulations they had in their rules and regulations that they had to manipulate and massage because it was impossible to do with COVID restrictions. So we did, and we made it as user friendly as possible, because again, using Bob's words, we wanted to go for yes. We wanted students to hear the word yes. We can do this, not no, we can't. They already were facing enough obstacles. Then subsequent to all of those, we had some local partners, which have been amazing. The New Jersey Symphony Orchestra came on board and has been on board in a number of ways. One is by providing some adjudicators who are members of their orchestra to sit on our panel and adjudicate our kids and commentate on them as well. They also provided tremendous awards for our kids at the end of last year by having these remote master classes for our students with their symphony members. We had Elefante Music come on board from New Providence, Berkeley Heights, and Scotch Plains. Their School of Music was a great partner, providing the same kinds of support and resources and master classes for the saxophonists and vocalists and guitarists and pianists. And then Jazz House Kids from Montclair, New Jersey, good friends of mine for a long time. They provided the same for some of our jazz students in terms of master classes. And for our gold level festival in the spring, some of their faculty came on board as well to be adjudicators for the kids who made it at the gold star level for the winter festival. So it's just been great. And for the ones that are coming up for our session next week, and I just saw somebody say, and Little Kids Rock, I'm just getting to Little Kids Rock because they're new partners this year. And so where I am thrilled. I know about Little Kids Rock as a former teacher in the Jersey City Public Schools and the Newark Public Schools. I was a big fan of and continue to be a big fan of what they do in those districts. When I became supervisor of Elizabeth in 2012, one of the first things I did in terms of bringing on partners was reach out to the Warren Graham, who's going to be coming on board next week, and get them into our district. And they've been a godsend, and we'll get into that a little bit more next week when we talk about the partnerships. But another reason why we intentionally went to try to get Little Kids Rockin' is because the same person, yay for modern band, exactly. We want this festival to be more than just classical music, jazz music. We want to celebrate the kids who participate in non-traditional ensembles. And so we opened it up this year. Warren Graham, who's one of their educational consultants and driving force with Little Kids Rock, came on board and shared the word with his schools and his students. And we had 5 entries, and some of them were terrific. And hopefully they'll be on board next week as well. The Hudson County Prep from Jersey City Schools and their teacher, Martha Wastrulik. Some of the kids wrote their own music, and there were duets. There was a large rock bands. They did some covers. They did their own compositions. It was amazing, and we hope to get more kids for the spring because they've had more time to practice and write their own stuff. And then our last partners that we're going to talk about. Well, our next level of partnerships. I'm very happy to have Dr. Helen Chapyo from the New Jersey Youth Symphony. She also wears many hats. She's the director of New Jersey Youth Symphony, Wharton Performing Arts School, and the Patterson Music Project. And hopefully what we're going to try to do is get the word out to those 3 associations as well about who we are, what we provide for the students. And again, especially, my heart is, most of my career as a public school music educator was in urban districts. So I'm always looking to try to get the kids and my brothers and sisters who teach those kids in the urban and rural districts to open up to get them to participate in an event like this, because they don't normally participate in some of the other region and all state ensemble.
And something I wanted to mention too was that we're going to get into who's eligible to be part of this awesome event and be part of this awesome festival. But something that's interesting is you mentioned young kids can be part of it. And then you also mentioned, or maybe you didn't mention it in this session, but you mentioned it last time, about that not just public schools, which is a really, really great thing. And so I'll pass it to you to talk more about that. But we've already had a couple people commenting, so definitely keep it up. And if you have any questions, please comment them. And then if you are watching this later, you can contact Dennis at artsednj.org, and he'll get back to you as soon as possible to answer any of your questions. Or you can join us for every single week on Wednesday for the rest of March for each of our themed events, and we can answer questions which aren't just for our theme, and then we'll move back to the theme. No worries, no stress. We're here to answer your questions and make this as simple as possible to make it as enriching for you. So we're going to pass it back over so we can talk about who's eligible to be a part of this. Because if you're sitting there and you're like, wow, this sounds great. I wonder if my kid can be a part of it, or I wonder if my students can be a part of it. Now Dennis is going to answer that question.
Right. That's wonderful. And thank you, Jocelyn. Again, another great reason for having you with me, because you keep me centered here. You keep the rudder going forward. This was a tough decision because we wanted to be as inclusive as possible. We also wanted to be realistic and not put pressure and on kids who were maybe too young to really appreciate the work that goes into preparing for something like this. So we decided to open it up for grades 6 through 12. We thought middle school through senior and high school would be an appropriate age group. Now, believe it or not, this year, I've had some teachers, and again, I always have Bob Morrison's words in my head with regard to this about, Dennis, we need to move toward yes. I have had some ensembles, and especially through the modern band ensembles, and now through the Patterson Music Project and some of the other urban ensembles that have reached out to me, that say, well, suppose I have like a 4th grader in the choir, and there's like 32 people in the choir, but there's only 1 or 2 like 4th or 5th graders. Is that okay? I don't want to say no to everybody, but those 2 kids could participate. I mean, we will work. You can't have an exceptional program without making exceptions. I can't accept a 4th grade choir. that would go outside of the parameters of what we're trying to do. But if you have like, let's say you're doing a scene from a Disney Junior show, or or an MTI Thames Widmark show. Our school just finished doing Willy Wonka. Let's say there's a scene there that you'd like to enter, and it includes 15 or 16 kids, and a couple of the kids are in third and fourth grade, but everybody else is in middle school. I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to have you enter. And because I don't want to say no, I want to give those kids the same opportunity, right? Last year, we also put a cap on our ensemble size at 30. And the reason we did that last year was because of COVID-19. Only because we tried to be as realistic as possible, in as much as, because so little live, large ensemble rehearsals and teaching was going on in our schools, it would be very difficult to rehearse an ensemble any larger than that. And in a recording situation, it would be very difficult to record a situation, an ensemble that size, in, like, let's say, spread out over an auditorium or outside on risers. So we thought 30 was the cap. And we had a couple of string orchestras, a couple of concert bands, a couple of choirs that went up to 30. Nobody exceeded it, and I probably would have let them in if they did. But this year we're hoping for the spring, because we are back. On Monday, the mask mandate is lifted. It's optional. We may have more ensembles if students want to enter scenes from shows, or rock bands that exceed that size, or you have a steel pan ensemble with 35 kids, enter. So that's the size of the ensemble and the grade level. And like you mentioned, Jocelyn, another thing that makes us a little bit different is students don't have to be from a public school or a private school, or they could be homeschooled. We had several homeschool students enter. We had students enter that were sponsored and registered by their private teacher. So that a lot of the other festivals and auditions that occur in the state of New Jersey, the teacher needs to be a member of the New Jersey Music Education Association, and I'm a board member of the New Jersey Music Education Association, and I understand why that stipulation is there. However, again, in an effort to say yes to more opportunities for kids, we decided that we didn't want to limit kids to that. And if you're studying with somebody who is a teacher in, I'm going to pick New Brunswick, and your teacher is not a member of NJMEA, that shouldn't disqualify you from participating in this. So that's the other part of it, is that it could be a homeschool child, a parochial school, private school child, or a non-NJMEA member school. Again.
And so I also want to mention that it's really cool that you accept ensembles all the way up to 30. So your entire chorus could be part of it. Or you accept like a group of 5 kids who are playing in their garage. It really doesn't matter. It's based on the actual production. And so anyone out there who's like, oh no, I don't know if I could create something that can stand up to a 30-person choir, don't think of it like that. Think of it like creating the best you possibly can, because you guys are basing it off of the music. The judging is based off of the creation at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah, and you bring up a good point, and I keep forgetting to bring this up. I think because I'm in the middle of it. I'm not really sure, but what's interesting is it's not a competition. It's every student can get a perfect score. So it's a competition against yourself, in as much as the judges have a rubric that we've designed, and we could talk a little bit about that. I know we will much more in the judging session, but it's the commentator, the professional is judging the student or student group against the rubric, not against another. Like if you're a vocalist, you're not competing against another vocalist. You're competing against your performance against the rubric. So it's really, again, we're trying to bring accolades and reward the work of the student or student group. And you mentioned 30. This year, we took the cap off this year. So if there's a 60-member concert band, if you're able to rehearse them and record them, we'll take them, no problem.
And so anybody who is part of a bunch of other arts organizations, this is akin to Thespian Festival, where it's a ranking system. It's also, I believe, Stange is very similar. A lot of theater competitions are like that because it's hard to pick the best of a jazz band versus a musical theater versus a rock band. Like, they're all so different, but they're also wonderful. And so, also considering that, what sort of music and creations can get put into it? Because you mentioned a musical theater performance, but then you also mentioned jazz bands. So, what are some examples?
There are no limits. I mean, we had a student. I had a student, a teacher, contact me indicating that their student. I'm going to maybe get the district wrong, so forgive me if you're listening or watching. I think it was a student from the Edison Public Schools. The teacher contacted me and said that the student wanted to play a traditional Indian instrument, wind instrument. I can't remember the name of the instrument. I'm sorry. I should know it. I can't remember it. And there were a couple of problems because, first of all, the repertoire list doesn't include any music for that instrument, and we have stipulations for music that doesn't exist on our list. A student can perform a piece that doesn't exist on the list. There's just another additional form that the teacher has to fill out. Very simple to get a permission for it. So I said, sure, they just have to fill and send in a copy of the sheet music. And the teacher was like, well, that's the interesting part. There is no sheet music. And I was like, well, how do they learn? And the music of India, a lot of traditional music that's not Western classical music is transmitted orally, Aurally. So there was no written music. So I said, well, I have to kind of hear it because we classify the rating of the music, class A, B, or C, depending on the difficulty. So we know how to manipulate the numbers to give credit for the student performance. So I said, well, I'm going to have to hear a recording of it so I can share with a friend of mine who's an expert in that particular music. And I got a judge who is an expert woodwind doubler and plays the instrument, Indian wind instruments. They rated it and the student performed and got credit for it. So there really is no, that'll be my problem. If you have a mariachi band that, if we were doing this in Texas or California or the Southwest, they have some killing mariachi ensembles out there, and they have their own festivals. So if you have a Spanish, when I was a band director in the Newark Public Schools at Arts High School, I had a salsa and bachata and merengue band. So if you want to enter that, come on and enter. I will find a judge or a commentator that will provide you with authentic commentary and ratings in that capacity, because our rubrics are very malleable. And that was another thing that we tried to do when we designed them is not make them so rigid that it had to be for, an aria versus a Sondheim piece. If you're singing as a vocal solo, the vocal rubric should be able to reflect a performance in either one of those genres, or, a Portuguese fado, if you want to sing that kind of style music as well.
And so no, that totally answers the question. That's super interesting that it's so adaptable and it's so diverse and accepting, and a good word that this user used. I think you might have your Facebook settings not allowing your name to show up, but that's something to look at another time. No stress. Right now, you're Facebook user, and we love you just as much. And so they said, I just love how accessible this is. I shared it with a bunch of urban teachers. And
Great.
So that's great.
Oh, it's Martha. So it's Martha Vashulik. She's the young lady that I'm praising your name here, Martha. She's the teacher of those students that were here with us from the Little Kids Rock Ensemble in Hudson County Preparatory School in Jersey City. So that's wonderful. Yeah. Come back next week, and you'll see Martha on the screen. Hopefully, she's going to be a guest with us in the studio. That'll be great. Oh, by the way, the other thing about this I didn't mention, it's only $20 registration for a single student, and for ensemble members, it's $10 per student, up to 15 students. So the maximum price for an ensemble is $150. So if you have a 30-member ensemble, it doesn't cost any more than $150. And the good news plus on top of that is one of our other partners, and forgive me for not mentioning earlier, because they're affiliated with Arts Ed New Jersey, and that's the Grunin Foundation. They're on the board of directors for Arts Ed. They have graciously donated scholarship funds. So any student that is in need will receive a scholarship to participate. The only thing that has to happen is the teacher fills out a scholarship form, and it's very user friendly, and there's no explanation other than the teacher recommendation. So if I had a student that, if I said, my name is Dennis Argul, Jocelyn Jeffries is deserving of a scholarship to participate in the festival, they'll be accepted. No one has been turned away because of lack of registration funds. So again, we're trying to say, I had that Bob Morrison mantra in my head, Dennis, we need to say yes for the kids. And so they're making it happen.
And so this is another reason, make sure you write down his email. And so if you need to reach out to him and ask him about any of this, you can let him know. It's dennis@artsednj.org. And then we also just got another comment. They said, this is so wonderful. Victoria, I still don't know how to pronounce your name, and I've talked to you probably 100 times. And she said, I'm a student at NJ PAC, and last year I was winner of a governor's awards. And hi, yes, she's amazing. Her voice is amazing. And hi, I'm so glad that you're tuning in.
Well, after having 2,000 plus kids, now that we just finished having, so another few hundred students this past winter, I don't remember seeing Victoria's name, but if Victoria's between the grades 6 to 12 and wants to enter, I look forward to having your registration and hearing your voice, because I do review, you could believe this or not, I do review every one of the films that were sent in. Because part of my job also is, as I see it anyway, is to make sure that the judges are using the rubric in an objective, fair way. So I want to make sure that there's inter-rater reliability with the judges. So some judges aren't being a little more hard than the others, and more a little more friendly, user-friendly with their numbers. So I listen to every kid. I see you love to enter. I'm a jazz vote. Perfect.
Yeah, she said, I'm a senior and would love to enter. I'm a jazz vocalist.
Outstanding. Outstanding.
And then also it's peer reviewed. That's a way to just describe it, is that it gets double checked, so that all of the judging is not only are the judges phenomenal and next level, but then it gets double checked, so it's next level of next level.
Right. So I appreciate that. And we, at the end of the festival last year, I put together a survey for the directors and the judges, just to see how could we improve upon things. And we listened to them. We made the registration process easier. We did things like this inter-rater reliability. We tweaked the rubric. I have a 25-member panel that works on the rubrics with me, and I do very little. I just kind of guide them with that, because I really want it to be teacher based. And again, there were 25 teachers and administrators from the New Jersey Public Schools on board to do this. And we broke up into teams based on their specialty, and tried to come up with a tool that is fair and realistic, and could be used for, like I said, for Victoria when she comes in and sings, When Sunny Gets Blue, and somebody who sings No One Is Alone from Sondheim's Into the Woods, and somebody who sings, Que Lila Manina from La Boheme. So that's what we're hoping to do, is to be there for everybody.
Absolutely. And so that leads us to getting right to it. How do we get in this thing? So what are the guidelines, and how do students register?
Okay. So you have the website on which I can't see from where I am. So if you haven't already, I strongly suggest that you go to the website. You have to register for access to the site. So it'll ask you, name, address, what school you attend to. And if you don't go to a school, if you're homeschooled, there'll be other there, and pop that in. Ask for a password for you to have access. And have a little box to check off to say, I agree with the terms and conditions of the site. There's really no terms or conditions, it's just a formality for us to use. Once you do that, the gates of the site open up to you, and you get to the website. And there you can look up basically everything you want: the festival rules and guidelines, the list of repertoire, Again, one of the changes we made last year, we had tabs, and it was like an Excel spreadsheet, a little clunky to get around. So Wisconsin State Association worked with us, made a PDF for teachers to be able to download, much more user friendly for teachers, students, parents, whoever wants to go there. It's not, again, you don't have to show any membership. There's no fee. It's totally free. You can get access and go there. And so right now, registration's not live. Registration won't be live until next week, a week from, actually, no, on Monday of next week, the 14th. We go live at registration. So you can go there and see the registration drop-down window, and you can navigate it. But if you hit submit, nothing will happen. It's because we're not live yet. So you can get a sense of how to register, but it won't register you yet until the 14th. But you could be able to see, like, okay, if I want to sing, let's say I want to sing this song from Sweeney Todd, and it's in the key of A, but I can't hit it in A. I have to sing it in the key of F. But the stipulations say I have to do it in the key of A. You just fill out another form called the transfer form, and it comes to me, and I okay it. So you want to get into those rules and regulations and see what the stipulations are there. The Wisconsin had a rule that if you do music theater, you also have to do a classical piece. We removed that rule for our festival. Again, you couldn't take a piece for tenor sax and play it on alto, or vice versa. We removed that rule. So you can if you play baritone horn and there's a trombone piece you want to play, go ahead and play it. You just have to fill out the transfer form. Very user friendly.
It's very based on adaptation, and it's very diverse, and so it's if you have a distinct view of what you want to do, then there's a way to do it, and this website's the way to do it, and it's in the description below with another link which we'll get into in just a moment. But please continue.
Yeah, and the other thing I was about to say, and thank you to remind them about that, is again, if you compose something as a student, you can perform that. And every category, you scroll all the way down to the bottom. If I was an oboist, scroll all the way down to the bottom, it'll say SC, and that's student composition. And that's the code you use for that. And then that'll give you a drop down and say, okay, what's the name of the composition? When was it written? It'll ask you a couple of questions about that. And that's really all you have to do at that point. Now, we also made it a little bit, one of the things we did well last year that teachers wanted to keep is, let's say I was like, let's say I'm going to use Martha since she was here before. Let's say she has 10 groups in the spring. Well, rather than her
Okay, we should be back. Let's see
What happened?
here. So sorry about that.
That's okay.
Internet will be like that sometimes. So we were talking about
The mass registration.
yes, we were talking about registration, and of course we're going to get into this. This is where we're getting into this now, and then we're going to get into judging, which we were going to discuss again, but we'll get into that even more in depth. But go ahead, registration.
Sure. So one of the things we changed for this year was that drop-down registration window, because teachers asked for a little bit more streamlined than we had it last year. Because if I have one kid that wants to register, I don't need this big Excel spreadsheet. However, getting back to what I had started to say, like a teacher like Martha, who may have multiple students or multiple groups, you download the Excel spreadsheet, fill it out, one sheet for all 10 groups, or however many groups. I'm hoping you have 10, Martha, and then upload that so she doesn't have to do that drop-down window 10 times, right? Teachers can pay with a purchase order. They can pay with a credit card or a check. Or like I said, if the students are scholarship available and are approved and nobody was unapproved or disapproved, then you get a scholarship code, which I give you via email. You pop the scholarship code in and the registration is completed. And then we move on to the next level of the work after that.
Okay, so we're starting to kind of close down because we've talked about so many wonderful things, but I want to talk about what are the dates for the spring event. So this is the spring event. What are the dates for it?
Okay, so now I'm double checking my notes, so I'm sure I'm right. So next Monday, the 7th, we have this information, this secondary information Zoom for folks, parents, teachers, students who have secondary or tertiary questions. The following week, the 14th, and I can't believe I forgot this because the 14th happens to be my birthday. So on my birthday, registration opens, and that's where kids and their teachers or their parents can start registration. Registration is open for a month and a day. So the day your taxes are due, April 15th, will be the close of registration. And we try to open up for a full month because, especially those students or teachers who are new at this, there might be a problem with the registration. They may need to get publisher permission. And that's the one possible holdup that we cannot get around. If you want to do a piece of music that is not on our repertoire list and does not match an approved publisher list that we have, and we've got like 500 approved publishers on a list. When you go to the site, you'll see. Then you, the teacher or the student or the parent, whoever's doing the legwork, needs to reach out to the publisher to ask permission. Can I perform this piece in this virtual festival? To make that process even easier, we've provided on our site a form letter that you can use to go ahead and make that happen. So, and you'll see that link there for publisher permission. Click on here, and it's all set up for you. You just have to put in your information and send it to the publisher.
You've thought of everything. Oh my goodness!
Well, and thank God, again, I have to give props to my brothers and sisters from Wisconsin and that education association because they dotted a lot of the I's and crossed the T's. And like I said, gave us permission to go ahead and manipulate it for our purposes. Once that's done, then myself and I mentioned earlier, my colleague Mark Sternberg from Music for All Competition Suite, we take 2 weeks from the 15th of April to the end of April to double check all the registrations, make sure that, I didn't say I wanted to play a saxophone piece, but I put the event code for a clarinet piece. There might be trouble. There might be some issues there. Oh, by the way, students can participate in more than one category. So I can't do 2 clarinet solos, but I can do a clarinet classical solo and a clarinet jazz solo. So those are 2 different categories. So we had some students who were like in the jazz band, the choir, and did a solo. So we just had to make sure that particular student was registered for the right place at the right time, so to speak. So those kinds of things take us about 2 weeks. Then from the 1st of May to the 15th of May is when the students will upload their videos and a PDF copy of their sheet music to Competition Suite. Okay? And that's, again, the protocol. That's the platform we use for our judges to use. And that information session will happen on April 4th. I have a separate information session for that, as well as we're going to hit that on the 16th of March, you and I, when we talk about the judging. And then we have that final one on the 30th, where we'll get into even more detail about how to do this. It can make some people nervous. It's really, really simple. You get a free account with Competition Suite. You click on the event, and you'll see upload submission. And you literally click on that, you drag and drop your video, drag and drop your PDF, and it's, Bob's your uncle, you're all set up. Then the judges will have 2 weeks, the 16th of May through the 31st of May, to do their adjudication process. And then on June 1st, we will contact all the teachers and students to say, Your results and commentary are available on Competition Suite. Kids and their teachers go back, they click on the link, and then they can hear the judges' comments and find out what their score is. All students receive a certificate from ArtsEd New Jersey. And without going into too much detail, you can get gold star, gold, silver, bronze, or the ratings of developing or emerging musicians. And we're going to go into more detail on that later in the month. But if anybody has questions, you can email me and I'll give you the answers.
And speaking of questions, we have one right now, and they said, is there a limit to how many scholarships can be granted to students of one school?
No, there is no limit. If I have, if that, I don't have to give a for instance. The answer is no. we don't want to say no to a student. So if the director, through their discretion, is saying that these students are deserving of and need of the financial assistance to participate in this festival, the answer is going to be yes. And then I'll give you the correct code to match the amount of students for the registration process.
No to limits and yes to possibilities with this competition. It's super exciting.
Love it. I love that. I'm stealing that.
So, as we start to close down, I want to cover some things. So let's kind of go over what we're going to be doing for this month. So this is our introduction and registration. Dennis, do you think we covered everything with registration?
I think so. Again, if you have any other questions, you can please reach out to me, or in the description below, there's a link for you to register for a Zoom session on Monday. I know we're all busy and we're kind of tired of Zooming. So if you're not free on Monday, but still want the information, register for the night, and you'll get a recording of that as having registered. And also, if you'd like, on our site right now, on ArtsEd registration for the festival now, there are links to last semester's info sessions. We've tweaked it a little bit, again, to try to make it a little bit more easy. But if you want to see what it was like a couple of months ago, you're welcome to go to the links that are on our site right now. Okay.
And both of those links are down there. The first link is I know it says registration twice, so that's a little confusing. The first link is our website for this festival. The second link, the one which has Zoom in it, is the Zoom link that will be the one which you register for. There's a lot of register, but just look for Zoom and then look for Arts at NJ, and that'll differentiate it for you.
Cool.
And so now then next week, the 9th, we'll be talking about partnership. And so we'll have a couple of guests on and we'll talk about their specific organization. We'll talk about what they do with our organization, all of that great stuff.
Right.
And then the week after that is the 16th. And so we'll be talking about judging. And so any questions you've had about who are the judges or why are the judges? No, nobody asks why are the judges. We have judges to make sure that you're doing the best you can, and we're giving you exactly the ratings and the excitement and the cheering on that we all need when we're creating. And then we're going to talk about where are they from, and we're going to talk about what is the scoring that they do, and we'll go more into detail about the layers of the rankings.
Sounds
great. And then Festival Fun Facts is going to skip a week because we're going to have you, if you're tuning in each week and you separate this time, we're going to have you tune into the Arts Educator Roundtable, which is the 23rd. Definitely tune in there. We have a bunch of interesting people who are going to be on. It's going to be super exciting. We did an Arts Educator once or twice before. We did it last March, and I think we did it one other time after that for the dancers. And so we focused specifically on that. And Dennis was on the first one. And and so definitely tune in for that. And then we're coming back on the 30th for submissions. And so we're going to talk all about that. And that'll be super, super exciting. So March is a decked out month of super exciting stuff. And then some push-ins just from Arts Ed and J in general. The Student Voices Roundtable will be on the 7th, which is the same day as the info session for this, but the Student Voices is at 6, while the registration info session is at 7. Also, you can get a recording of that, so you don't have to worry about being overbooked because we can always work it out. And there's still time to sign up for that if you haven't been on it, or if you have students who want to be on it or something like that. That's where we have students come together and just talk about why they do arts education and what they love about it. And there's also still time to sign up for the Arts Educator Roundtable. And then look out for our post, SEL Day, and other info sessions that will be happening all month. So our promotion is down.
That's great. I mean, it sounds like a lot, but you know what? It is a lot, and it's important for us to stay engaged with one another. Advocacy is not an act that takes a rest. We have to stay, and we have to, as much as we can, come out and support one another's events, because that's how we stay alive and that's how we learn. That's how we continue to grow as artists and performers, right? Just to keep plugged in. I love it.
Absolutely. And so we have a comment from Martha. She said, "Thank you so much. We'll see you next week." We will see you next week, Martha. I'm excited to meet you. And is there anything else before we close down for the night? And be sure to look out for next week's post and for next week's show, in addition to the series. And anything, Dennis?
Well, I want to thank you again for joining me in this. I want to thank everybody who was here, and hopefully some folks watch and have subsequent questions. I know it's a lot of information, and it could feel like, oh, there's so much going on, and I'm doing my high school musical, and I'm trying to get ready for college, and all that is totally understandable. And we're not looking for folks to do anything else on their plate. I'm just saying that you can kind of eat your cake and have it too, in as much as, if you're in your high school musical and you've got a piece you're working on, record yourself and submit it to Arts Ed New Jersey's Solo and Ensemble Festival, and you got it. You can do both, and then this way you get a performance perspective and an adjudicative perspective as well. I mean, again, one of our judges last year for music theater was Megan Zervulis, who is the musical director for West Side Story. That unfortunately closed because of COVID, but she's doing, oh my gosh, she's going to kill me for not remembering. It's a show that's coming back. Is the Hello Dolly back? Okay, I think she's the MD for that. It's a revival.
So. I'm not 100% sure either. I haven't been keeping up with theater as well as I should be.
Megan, if you watch now or later, don't get mad at me. It's what happens when you get old. But she's an amazing musician, and that's the caliber of people that we have on board, giving commentary and ratings to our kids. So I wish it was around when I was a kid, that's for sure.
Oh wait, Funny Girl.
Funny Girl.
I think that's right. Yeah, Funny Girl, because I remember some people talking about who was going to be in it. Yes, Funny Girl. Thank you very much.
I'm not sure if that's still Martha, but if it is, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, so with that, I want to review. We're going to have an info session each week. We have official. No, this isn't. Not that this isn't official, but it'll be a more condensed one. This is more specialized for each week, so that'll be more of a condensed, quick info session on the 7th, and that's at 7 p.m. And then we have, as Arts and J, we have a Student Voices Roundtable at 6 on the 7th, and that is also recorded. So you can go to neither, you can go to one or the other, and you can just come back later. No stress, no worries. To get into one of those, you just go to YouTube, and then to get into the meeting on the 7th for New Jersey and Solo Ensemble Festival, you have to register, which the link is below. And is there anything else that we need to cover? Oh, and then the Arts Roundtable is happening on the 23rd, so don't miss it. That's a definite thing to tune into. And happy Arts in Our Schools month. Yay!
Happy Arts in Our Schools. Thanks again, Jocelyn. Take care, everybody.
Okay, see you guys next week.
Bye-bye.